That'll do. The reason why I'm making this video, well, we're making this video, is I have a lot of friends that currently, whenever I say the words D&D, they look at me very blankly.
And cringe.
And cringe, yeah. They think it's just for nerds and that...
We nerds.
No, well, the nerd thing is true. Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But I just wanted to get it out there that we're going to explain a bit what it is so that you can experience what we experience every session.
Every single session.
A D&D game typically requires 3 or more players and a dungeon master. For me, for this kind of session, I am the designated dungeon master, who is... If you treat it like a video game, it's like the players are the player of the game, and the DM is the entire console and the game, and the memory space, and the debugging tools.
They are everything.
A lot of work.
We just get to roll dice and select your course.
Which, funny enough, the dice are the most important tool. Would you not agree, both of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you go around the whole game rolling high, so if I say to James, I want you to roll a check to not die, James has to roll a dice, and depending on how high he rolled, depends on if he succeeds or not.
And I'm using a D20, so you guys are probably familiar with a D6, which you use for games such as like Monopoly and stuff like that.
I'm not sure I can see this at all.
No.
I'll do some close-ups. Going through some of the dice, everyone will be very familiar with a D6. You use this, like I said, for Monopoly. 6 sides. Basically, when we talk about dice, whatever number comes after the D is what it is.
How many sides it possesses.
Yes, so D4, used for such things as throwing stones, daggers, like little things like that. A D8. This packs a bit more of a wallop, so things such as warhammers, and a lot of these for like a cannon on a ship or something like that.
10.
A D10, and I'll do this with a D100 as well, because they're exactly the same, but a D100 has zeros after the numbers. That is used for some people. Some DMs like to use that as, you find 90, exactly 90 gold in your chest, stuff like that.
It's also used for quite heavy weapons, such as great axes. And then you have the biggest damage dice that you can possibly possess, a D12.
D12.
If you're rolling a D12 for your damage, you're probably one of the heavier hitters of the party, as it is the largest dice you can have without going into special modified weapons.
Of course. And then the pride and joy of all of D&D, the D20.
Da.
So I'm on death's door. I need to roll to not die.
That's a 14. That's all right in terms of first level characters. I'd say that's fine. You succeed in your death saving throw. Good job.
I'm not dead. That's always good.
However, if you were to roll there like a 2, I would go, right, yeah, the beast kind of clamps its jaws around your throat and you bleed out and you die. Good luck, James. Goodbye in the afterlife. And James has to make a new character.
Yep.
It's hard.
But anyway, our campaign takes place in the islands of Venalor.
This whole make-believe world that I created because I have way too much time on my hands. So it's set in this group of 7 islands called Venalor in this whole make-believe fantasy world that I've created. And they start off as tourists to the island, coming in fresh, not knowing what's going on. Well, some have been there before. Some have been underneath it.
Like, you come as tourists. I started in a cage!
This is true. You did start as a prisoner of Goblin War.
My characters come back.
Yes, you're coming back after a tour.
A long leave.
A leave of absence.
Yeah.
And so it's set with 7 islands, all different climates. One called Ice Strip, this frozen wasteland. Archpeak, this huge canopy of forests and trees and mountains. And there's some quite quiet ones like Charian or Phoenici, the kind of more lowland islands, where each had its own different charms and different environments, so that players who are new could experience different ways of playing throughout the whole campaign. Which is quite nice, I think. It means that you can play in different places, like deserts and snow and jungles and swamps and all sorts of shit, and eventually in a volcano.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Wait, what?
And a bit about the politics, which I guess we should let you in on, of the story.
Yes.
My character personally has no need in politics, or at least at the start of the campaign. Very basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, these 7 islands were very peaceful until these big group of elves from a far off land came swooping in because of unknown reasons, and started to just take over. Or
they wanted to claim
Yes.
the islands as their own. That was
This kind of crowned
Interesting.
prince who owns this huge mercenary army has been, for reasons unyet known to the party, exiled from his homeland or forced out, and is trying to seek a new place for his people to live in. And therefore he finds this group of islands where there aren't many elves living at the time, and thinks, these are inferior people, I'll have that. And so he goes about setting up this new government of his own, ruling over the people, taxing them to hell, putting a blockade around the islands, basically making it a bit of a hellhole for anyone who's not an elf. And then the party just happens to stumble in at the height of this prince's power, coincidentally.
we would be nowhere without our motley crew.
Yes.
Yes.
So, at the start of the campaign, very first session, we have,
6 PCs playing at that time.
and we'll go through them all.
you two.
I will talk about first Ariabel, played by Tish. She is a half-orc barbarian. All we really knew when we first met Ariabel is she comes from farmlands and she's extremely passionate about family
And people.
and people,
Yeah.
as you'll find out. And we know that her goals in life, she was looking for her grandfather who mysteriously disappeared and left no traces. So she came to the islands looking for him.
One night she kind of woke up and her grandfather had been taken away from her lands, and being this kind of patriarchal figure of her clan, she felt honour bound to go and find him, and also emotionally bound to go and hunt down where he'd gone to. And so that's how she finds herself on this.
Yeah.
Well, the whole party finds itself on this big merchant ship heading into the islands, which is then accosted.
Who's
next?
What was it? Is it Blowy?
How about you talk about David Blower?
David Blowy. Oh, what a guy.
So a really inventive character name there. The way David Blowy was kind of formed is he is a man sort of out of time. He doesn't really belong in these worlds. He makes
Not at
references
all.
to things in modern day, in a different parallel universe. He doesn't quite know what's going on or why he's there. All he knows is that he is somewhat gifted in the power of healing magic, and so has been assigned as the ship's doctor. And so, going about that, he starts to apply leeches to random people on the boat because that's what he thinks would happen in a medieval world.
Yeah.
David Blow is an interesting character to DM for, especially for me. And he goes through slight changes
Yeah.
through the campaign so
In a
far.
word,
It's gonna take a while, I think, for them to change.
David Blowy is a ginormous. I'll bleep
To him.
that out.
To him.
Basically, he's just a bit of a sarcastic bastard.
Yeah.
Constantly.
What about
Anyway.
Janet?
Janet.
Talk about Janet.
Janet again. So this is played by our friend Sky. It was her first time.
Very
doing
first
it.
time,
Very
yeah.
first time.
We had a lot of people that just started new to D&D.
But so basically, Janet is kind of this strange, mysterious woman. She's a ranger, but she's not quite sure where she's come from. She's basically got amnesia, so she doesn't have a clue about her past. She knows all the basic skills, but other than that, she's a bit of the silent type. She doesn't like to necessarily get involved. She kind of looks around at this kind of like motley crew and thinks, why am I here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to think of her as a badass Snow White, that she can commune with the animals, but she
Yeah.
can also kick ass.
Yeah.
The way both Janet and Blowy's backstories were formed is that both these people had never played or heard much about D&D, the two players played them.
Yeah.
And so the typical new player thing of, I have amnesia, was implemented for these two, which let me have quite a lot of fun in making up their backstories for them, which I'm finally now implementing in the actual campaign, which
Very
is
good.
quite fun to do when I'm just given complete free reign, because then I just go wild with it and ruin their days.
Yes. It's like, no! You'll get given a lot of opportunities in the game, and it's just like, if you want to take it, take it.
before I introduce my character, we should probably also understand that there was another member,
Yes.
a gnomish ranger by the name of Dot.
Yes.
This was another person that was very new to D&D, who stuck around for, I think we calculated, about 6 sessions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and they couldn't always be there for some of the sessions, so we just said that...
She had narcolepsy and she fell asleep in Aribel's bag.
Yeah, and because she was a gnome, we could just carry her around.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
not me.
Well,
Not
yes. Well, you were smaller than her, weren't you?
I was the same height.
Okay. Yeah. Sure, but with your body stature and you're like,
My ears put me slightly over the edge.
Oh.
And if you haven't worked out, my gob is a goblin.
Yes.
Yes. Speaking of which, I play McGob. A very interesting backstory. He does not know where he's from. He presumes he's from the islands. He was taken at a very, very young age. He was probably about 3 at the time. He knows he was taken to the Underdark and experimented on. So goblins are usually extremely low intelligence. However, what they did to him and his 2 brothers in arms, they just strapped things to his head, and he became super intelligent from these experiments.
Yeah.
And then how he finds himself on this boat is he presumes he was going to get sold as a slave to the highest bidder, because who doesn't want a super intelligent goblin as like a slave?
True. Yeah. Is it me?
Okay.
My character, Dayton, he is a human rogue. It was fun making his story because I wanted it to be as weird as possible. I think because I've done a few like D&D games before, but I thought, you know what, it's the first time I'm actually going to be given the opportunity to put a real story together. I mean, can I just read out the story that I gave my character, please? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
please
sure.
do.
It's fun. So let's just go with this. Okay. So, ever since my birth, my father would tell me I was adopted. The people at my school would always tell me I was adopted as well. I sensed a theme. The constant reminder I wasn't wanted by anyone finally hit me at the age of 4, and I knew I had to escape. Of course, only being 4, I had no fucking clue about where anything was. But that didn't stop me. I waddled away from the 3-story mansion knowing that I wasn't worthy of the rich life. Following my life instincts, I ran. Well, crawled into the tree line at the end of my house garden. I was now finally ready to start my new life. Well, hearing a rustle in the nearby bushes, a fox mother emerged with her 2 fox children, Elion and Ramira. Finally, I understood that my previous family and school friends were simply foreshadowing my future, to be adopted by the sneaky and elusive fox people. Also just foxes. But anyway, so 15 years later, I had definitely realised how stupid of an idea that was, but oh well. Anyway now, I'm a thief, but it's pretty shit economy.
It wasn't even fox people. It was actual, not kitsunes, not tabaxi. Fox people. Foxes.
At the end of my garden.
A really, really crap Jungle Book.
But you can imagine how bad his parents are, considering they didn't bother to look at the end of his garden.
So what these 2 have done with their characters, if they've given me a lot of wiggle room to create whatever I really want with who his parents were and where he came from and who these people were that experimented on McGob in the Underdark. And so that kind of gave me just a lot of space to play with for future things I can set up for the campaign, as I like my campaigns to be quite player-based with their backstories and their own histories, kind of weave it into the actual narrative rather than just having these blank slates go about nothing. It's quite fun to have a lot of tie-in for personal investment, and for new players especially, that's really helpful to get them on the right track.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've met all of our party
So far.
So this was just a pretty much just introduction. We will continue with this, and from now on it will be episode titles, and it will be telling you the story of... The first episode will be how we met until possibly like a cliffhanger. We'll leave each one on a cliffhanger maybe.
Each episode is going to be centered around each different session which I've kept a log of, and we'll tell you what happened, the ways in which they happened, the kind of funny sides of things, the story thus far people want to keep up, and the way I've had to DM and things I've kind of learned from DMing a group like them. It was a learning experience to start with a lot of new players and some experienced ones as well. So hopefully you forgive some of my failings as a DM as they come. Are we just waving?
I am.